You just started now, so I've just started recording. So how are
No,
you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Great to see you again.
How is
Great to
everyone?
see
How
you
is
again.
family? Everyone okay?
Everyone's doing fine. Everyone's doing fine. Family's doing great also. Family's doing
Yeah.
good.
So
And
yeah,
yours?
thank. Well, right. Just pushing. UK is UK in us. It can't be compared to Canada, can it?
I wouldn't know. I mean, like, it depends, right? It's some people prefer the UK. I think most people prefer the UK. Some prefer Canada, but it's what basically it comes down to preference and what works for you actually. So,
Well, yeah, I think, but I honestly believe that most people in UK were people that probably couldn't get into Canada. Just like
uh,
Just like they say, people that went to Covenant were people that didn't get Unilag admission.
okay, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think I know a lot of people come more from the UK to Canada than from Canada to the UK. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. People transition from here. So UK is like the first stop, and then they keep moving forward. Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Thank you
well,
for honoring my invite. And this is just lots of crazy ideas. I learned from you lots of crazy ideas. Sometimes you just come up with something and you just want to test run it and see how it goes. So that is how the idea of this podcast came on, and I started researching how can I start having virtual podcasts, and what niche do I create for myself? And I just thought, why not this immigration and migrant whole thing, people moving from one country to the other, sharing their stories. I know it's not been all rosy and all of that. Getting people that I know that have taken this bold step to share their journeys, so that if I put it out there, people can actually learn from it, because there is this misinformation, or people not wanting to be attuned with reality that, once you move abroad. But before then, I want to officially start. And can you still see me?
I can see you just clear. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it.
So
Yeah.
I just want to officially welcome everybody to Odesu Mazi Chooks. So what is Odesu Mazi Chooks? Odesu Mazi Chooks is where we delve into real stories of migrants, the struggle, the resilience, and the victories. So, like you all know, moving abroad isn't an easy thing. Yeah, it takes courage, it takes patience, and it takes a whole lot of determination. So I started this podcast idea. This whole idea of podcast came because I needed to record and get other people's opinion and their stories on how they moved, how they transitioned, and how they settled. Yeah, to share the truth, not just most of the funny stories we hear on social media, but to bring real people to share the truth. Because while the journey is tough, when you take the right path, because I'm an advocate of when you want to do anything, do it the right way. I want to believe you agree with me, Lumi, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like anything worth doing is worth doing well, and doing things the right way, following the right process, just
Yeah.
will save you grief up, in the future. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So when you take the right path and you remain focused, it is worth it at the end. So, guys, I welcome you officially to the first episode of Odesu Imazichik. So, kindly relax. It might be a long video. I don't intend to make it long, but then I hope I and my brother and friend, we don't chat away and forget the whole essence of the life. So, just relax, tune in, and let's explore this incredible journey together. So, my brother, can you? And our guest today is a mentor, is a brother, is a friend. We all worked together in our civil service job in Nigeria. Of course, he was in the technical team while I was in the admin. So he's a boss. He's a boss. He's everything computer, everything tech. So, Lumi, can you please introduce yourself to us, please? That's okay.
I think I would have to do a little disclaimer here before I start. So
Okay.
thanks for this opportunity to talk and just connect.
Yeah.
If I'd known it was going to be this way, I probably would. I just got off work. I'm looking pretty rough, and for sure this is going to be on the internet, I guess. So just putting that disclaimer out. Yeah. So my name is Olumide. Everyone calls me. Well, I'll say everyone. Most people call me Lumi. I've
Lumi.
known my chooks for years now.
Yeah.
Uh, while we worked both in Nigeria. As for myself, I'm a tech consultant, basically into cloud and security consulting. Worked as a cloud architect, security engineer.
Yeah.
So what I basically do right now is cloud and security consulting. So that's what I do. Uh,
Okay.
I'm based in Calgary, Canada.
Okay.
Uh, moved there with my family a few years ago from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much about it about me.
Oh, interesting. Um, Cloud consulting. That sounds like one very big name. For the benefit of our audience and all of that, and for us to bring it back home, was this what did you just move to Canada? What part did you take to Canada and all of that so that people can be able to understand your story?
Yeah, I mean, like, my story on my path to Canada wasn't really planned. I mean, my interest, I don't know if I told you this, but I wasn't even planning to leave Nigeria. Well, I was thinking about leaving Nigeria, but I wasn't planning to come to Canada. And what happened was, I think sometime in 2017, there was supposed to, the way in Nama you have, okay, I'll put the name out there. So we used to work at Nama together. Uh,
Yeah.
and there was a conference that was supposed to happen, and they said
Yeah.
it was going to be in Canada. So I know a lot of the people in the organization then indicated their interest to come to Canada for the conference, and I was going to do the same. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, hey, almost everyone in engineering is applying for this visa. I don't think they will give everybody. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I
Just
just told
like
myself, you know what?
just like the current is it CDS wanted to take 70 people to Canada
Exactly,
Nigeria.
exactly. So that I thought about it. I'm like everybody I knew, all the engineers were saying, "Oh, I'm going. I want to apply for the. I'm putting my name for the on the list to apply
Yeah.
for Canada." So I told myself, "Okay, I don't think uh, I would apply for this because I don't see it happening."
Yeah.
And there was someone who had interned at NAMA who I knew was in Canada. The lady was one of like the IT students. She was interning at NAMA. So I just told her and said, okay, there might be a possibility that I might come to Canada on a tourist visa. And then she
Yeah.
told me about what do you call it, the express entry. And that was actually like the first time someone told me about it. And she said, hey, why don't you try this express entry thing? There's a
Oh, wow.
CRS call. And that's how I heard about it. So I just pivoted from saying, from trying to apply for a regular visa. And she made it really easy at that time. She just told me, hey, it's simple. You have a master's, you have work experience. Go to this website and calculate what your score will be. And I calculated it and I thought, okay, it looks like I'll qualify. And basically that's what happened. So I just ended up doing that,
Mm.
started the process. So I basically, long story short, I basically came into Canada through the skilled entry process uh, by putting in all the information required. I got an invitation to apply about a month or 2 months after I made the application. And the whole process took less than, I think, about 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And so I think in 8 months, I found myself in Canada. And that's basically
Mm.
what happened.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I never knew you came in through Express Entry. So meaning you wrote the IELTS and all of that.
Yeah, I had to do the IELTS. And that was pretty scary at that time in Nigeria because I remember doing the IELTS exam and I was thinking, oh my God, there's no way I was going to pass. Matter of fact, I was already planning to, because you had to have you need to have like a certain band. You'd say like
Yeah.
in reading or writing, all of that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Yeah, and it was so tough that day because in the venue in Nigeria then we had like technical difficulties, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I was going to make this call. And
Mm.
so the day the IELTS result was supposed to come out, I'd already also about to purchase another one, and then I just saw
Oh,
that I got the required band, and that was like,
oh,
I was not like, apart from getting the ITA, the invitation to apply, uh, that was like the second most exciting thing on my journey to Canada. So
yeah.
basically, I did all of that.
Oh, thank you for sharing. So just to explore that further, did you get the ITA directly from the Express Entry, or it was the province that sent you provincial nomination?
It looks like I know you do immigration, so it looks like you have
Well,
all of
I'm
that
quite.
information.
I think it is something I might maybe in the course of the program also share my Canada experience. How, but now Canada is not a place I fancy anymore. Maybe because of the experience I had with them. Yeah, I know sometimes you just like something or you love something, and if you can't get hold of that thing, you just all of a sudden detest it and all of that. So I think that's my journey and story with Canada. But today is not about me; it's about you. So, do you mind sharing if it was the main EE or provincial nomination and all of that?
Yeah, so I think when I completed, all of the on the what do you call it on the portal, about like a month after I got the provincial nomination from Ontario.
Okay.
And at that point, I was thinking, okay, should I accept this or not? So I asked a few people, and they were like, at that point, my score was still good enough to get the federal the federal invite. And so
Yeah.
I didn't take I actually got the Ontario nomination, but I didn't take that
Okay.
because I was a bit confident that I should get I'll be able to get the provincial nominations usually come with restrictions saying you
Yeah.
have to stay in that province for a while. So I didn't take that. I actually got it, but I didn't take it. And I think 2 months after was when or 2 or 3 months after was when I got the invitation to apply, from the
Federal.
federal express
Oh,
team. Yeah.
so that is quite a brave one. So when you did your IL, did you have a master's at the time? Because I know masters kind of boost your score and all of that. I didn't have a master's, so it was more of a struggle for me.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I had a master's at the time, and I had a master's. I think when we in NAMA together, actually, I know you asked me questions about my master's, and the master's was, I think for me, it was just a little bit of luck and the God factor because
Yeah.
my master's took 5 years. I started my master's in Unilag, I think 2010. Is it 2010 or 2009? But
Mm.
I couldn't complete it until 2014. So it was just like a master's I had. I wasn't really happy about it.
Oh,
Uh,
bless
but,
you.
but yes, but back to the question. Yeah, I had a master's at that time, and so that helped. That
That
helped with
boosted
the
your score because I know masters,
yeah,
yeah, okay. Oh, well
yeah.
done. Thank you for sharing. So, coming to, of course, that is your path to Canada. When you landed in Canada, obviously you've got express entry, which kind of gives you the wings to explore and probably also remain in your professional field. But did you immediately go into cloud engineering, or what? Of course, I believe when you move from your previous country or your home country to oversee transitioning, settling down is not usually an easy thing. Or was that your story, or was yours also miraculous and all of that?
I like the word you use, miraculous. So I think for most immigrants who move to a new country, especially in the western part of the world, there's always a transitioning part, especially if you're trying to find your feet into a different career. For myself, a lot of the work I did at NAMA, like you mentioned, was code engineering, but a lot of it actually was IT. It was basically IT. You had like your data backups every day. You had the voice recorders. You had the archiving. You had like the system checks. And so what I just thought about was my work in NAMA was, NAMA is just a single employer. For example, it's an air navigation service provider. And in
Yeah,
Canada, it's the same thing. There's just one place you can work like that. So I'm like, okay, I could not try to find the same job in Nigeria and Canada because that means I'm basically limiting myself. So I just thought about it and said, okay, I need to get myself into IT. But the first few years, I'd say the first few months I wasn't able to get an IT job.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, honestly, I won't even use the word I wasn't able to get an IT job. Uh, the people you meet when you first get into a new place, the information you have around you is really key. So a
Yeah.
lot of people I met when I just came in were all talking about survival jobs, Walmart, warehouses,
Mm.
and so
Mm.
very few. So basically, that was the information about me. And so when I
Mm.
just came in, I tried to apply for like engineering jobs. So I was currently registered back in Nigeria. But
Sorry,
in
did you say you
Canada,
sorry, did you say you applied for what? What job?
for engineering jobs,
Okay, engineering job. Okay.
yeah. So back in Nigeria, you had Korean, and so I thought I could do the same thing here. But
Yeah.
Canada is very heavily regulated, like for professional careers, engineering, nursing, medical sciences, and that. So I realized I couldn't, that would take 2, 3 years at least to
Mm.
become a registered engineer. So I basically skipped that,
Yeah.
and in a good way, or I wouldn't want to call it bad because I think everything happens for a reason. My
Yeah.
focus then was just, okay, let me just get. So I tried different things. I tried retail, tried warehousing. Tried
Mm.
in Canada. A lot of people would know. Uh, there used to be something that when you sell credit, you try to like offer credit cards to people and get commission. So I was just
Mm.
trying like all the wrong things. Yeah, I think they were the wrong things, but it was just based off the information I had around me.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I did that for a few months, and then I had a friend who also moved from Nigeria to Canada, and
Yeah.
he just got into an IT role, and I'm like, "Ah,
Oh
how did this
wow.
guy just do it?"
How did they do
You know,
it?
so actually, you know the person, but I wouldn't want to mention
No,
his
that's
name.
fine. Confidentiality, that's fine. But then it's also
Yeah,
good
so
to give people their credits because this is a positive credit. So it's actually, he might
yeah,
see this
yeah,
video somewhere and he will say, oh, what I did for this guy, he actually has. So if it's a positive thing, I don't mind sharing.
yeah. But I'll still. I think you might like want to keep.
If you're
I
not,
mean,
if you're not comfortable, that's fine. That's fine.
yeah, but so he came in and like he just got an IT job and he was doing things. I'm like, how did he? But he had the right information. So yeah,
Yeah.
he had the right information, and so I just basically realized, okay, if this person my friend who came to Canada a few months after me, could
Mm.
find his way and get a proper job,
Yeah.
I could do the same thing. And so that was just like the big mindset shift. I'm like, okay, because when I came in, everyone would tell you, I just find a survival
Survival
job.
job.
That's what a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's not bad, but that's not the best strategy to start with, because for your mindset, a lot, I think your growth in a different country comes down to the information you have, the people you surround yourself with,
True.
and your life. So for me was I didn't get that right information. And so just having someone who was able to shift my mindset to say, yeah, you can do it. You don't have to find survival jobs was the
Yeah.
big shift. And then in a
Yeah.
few months I got my first IT job.
Oh, wow.
I'd say 6 months after. And yeah, and that's where things started to change and look up.
Okay. So you would say in your case that you had that unsettling. I wouldn't call it I wouldn't call it unsettling, but taking jobs or starting from where you obviously know that we're below your professional qualification. Just to, of
No,
course, when you move up, you need to pay your bills hit you immediately. So you need to do something to pay your rent, to feed your family, and all of that.
yeah, yeah, I definitely had to do that. Like, I did that for a few months. I didn't get a job when I moved to Canada for until like the third month. By the
Wow.
third month, I realized, okay, I had to just take any job I could take. So I ended up my first job in my real first paid job was a warehouse job. I was working in the warehouse. So, just moving from a country like Nigeria where it's really warm, temperate weather, and then working in a warehouse where it's -4 degrees all the time.
Mm.
It was it was a big shift. Luckily for me, I didn't do that for too long. I
Mm.
went into another job, uh, which I'll still call a survival job, but for me was just I did survival jobs for a few months, but luckily, like I
Mm.
mentioned, my friend came in around and just
Yeah.
told me, okay, it just made me believe that okay, I could do more than that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what really helped.
So you mentioned something that for 3 months you were not working.
Yeah.
So this is a reality in the abroad, like we call it. This is a reality in the abroad that you can come with the right papers, the right documentation, the rights to work, and you still come here and you're even a professional and you can still come to the abroad, whether it's the UK, whether it's Canada, whether it's Australia, anywhere, and you can still be unemployed, right?
No, that's really commonplace. I think right now in Canada, even the situation is way more different compared to when I came in. I know people. I've seen people who take 5, 6 months, even 7 months. Right now, it's even difficult to get survival jobs in Canada. That's a simple
Wow.
fact. You know,
Wow.
I heard in the UK people easily get. I heard a lot of like the care jobs, survival jobs. In
Mm,
Canada, it's way more difficult, and
mm,
yeah, so that's a big reality also. And for me, one
wow.
of the reasons why, but I have to make this also clear. One of the reasons why I didn't get the job at that time was the first 3 months I came in, I was applying for professional jobs. So I was just like, okay, no, let me just apply for jobs I think match my
Mm,
skill set. But that
yeah.
didn't happen, so I had to like change my strategy and take whatever job came up. So that that's
Oh, wow.
that was that time.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Can I ask, can you share what inspired you to leave Nigeria in the first place? What was the motivation? What inspired you? What made you decide to leave?
Oh boy, that's an interesting question. Honestly, not to sound like I was just always complaining in Nigeria, and it wasn't complaining about. I think generally, if you look in the Nigerian context, people who worked in NAMA, especially engineers, air traffic controllers, were doing pretty fairly okay, at least in the Nigerian context. So my leaving Nigeria
Then,
wasn't.
then we were fairly okay then.
It's much worse now.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe if
Yeah,
you,
so
I
for
don't
me,
know, if you've lost contact from everybody, if you still keep in contact, then they should be able to tell
no,
you.
no, I still keep in contact with people. I know everyone in Nigeria complains now. Whether you're a millionaire or not, everyone is saying T-Pain, everyone is saying stuff. Uh, but yeah, for me, it was more like my complaint in Nigeria was always just the system. I'm a pretty straight. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to come off as moralistic or someone who is idealistic, but
Mm,
especially working in the government organization, I
yeah,
knew how things put the politics, the fact that you could not honestly be honest for you to go up, you basically have to compromise. And so and
you didn't stand a chance. You felt you didn't stand a chance.
I knew I wasn't going to stand a chance, I knew I wasn't going to stand a chance, and Nigeria's a very competitive place. It's how Nigeria people are now, you have to always,
Godfatherism,
yeah,
nepotism, and all of those things.
well, maybe well, honestly, I won't use the word nepotism per se, because I really didn't see that so much, at least where we worked. But the rules. I don't want to talk too much, right? You hear when this person became MD, one senator says you have to do this or you have to. So all of that stuff, I knew wasn't my. I couldn't really. I didn't want to do stuff like that,
Mm,
and and I just felt like going somewhere else where I could do more. One of the big differences with the Western world and Nigeria is opportunities and the
opportunity.
ability to actualize what you feel you're capable of doing. You could be in Nigeria, you could be really great, but there are no opportunities there. And honestly, the difference between a lot of us in the UK, in the States, in Canada, and the people in Nigeria is just our location.
Location.
Honestly, yeah, when you see people doing great abroad, It's not like they're special. There's nothing real special about. That's how I feel, anyways, about us here. It's
Yeah,
just the fact that we have an enabling environment that helps you thrive.
that
A
helps you
lot of
try.
people,
I
if they
agree.
go, yeah, see, a lot of people, if they go back to Nigeria, we are back to square one again.
Yeah.
So
So,
so
so,
it's just,
so in summary, if I understand what you're saying, or for our viewing audience, what you're invariably saying is that the Nigerian environment, the government interference, especially when you work in government, or even now in private sectors when you work, because government also now interferes in private establishment, whether directly or by government policies, and we hear companies folding up or doing all manner of things. What you're saying is that the environment in Nigeria does not allow an average, maybe let me use the word an average, because we're not talking of the people that are the bourgeois now, the political elite. We're talking of the average Nigerians that do not have people that can put words for them. What you're saying is that it does not allow you to thrive, to become your best, to utilize your potential. Is that?
uh, I mean, I really don't like to be direct that way, but that's the truth, right? You ask yourself, why do people seem to do better when they leave Nigeria compared to when they're
Yeah.
in Nigeria? It's just the soil. It's
Mm.
like everyone's like a seed. Depends on where you drop the seed, the kind of soil it falls on. And
Mm.
it's not just the government. Nigeria has a culture of, it's the Nigerian culture.
Yeah.
The Nigerian culture is something, that's a different topic, actually. But yeah, the environment in
Mm.
Nigeria doesn't, yeah, in the UK, I guess also, if you have an idea, you're encouraged to like work on that idea. People are there to support you.
Yeah.
You have grants. That even taking away, not even talking about grants, but you can actually see that the system is there to support you to be productive. It's a little bit different in Nigeria. Even apart from the system in Nigeria, how many
Mm.
people, and that's a simple truth. Okay, I wasn't even talking about that, but it's just people. Yeah, I won't say are genuinely happy to see you succeed. Your neighbors, people around you want to see you do well. If especially if you're contributing to the society in one way or the other, and it's not
Yeah.
focused on, it's focused. The society here is basically focused on producing, on adding value. In Nigeria, it's about money. It's about who's got the most money, who's got the most
Mm.
connections. So,
Yeah.
merit really doesn't really work there. So
Okay, so
it, it's, it's
let's move a bit from Nigeria now to Canada. So, what would you say were your biggest challenges when you first arrived? Because there are some people that might get to watch this video and they are thinking, okay, I want to move from Nigeria, but then this podcast seems to be focusing on the challenges in Nigeria, which would not solve. So what we're trying to say is, what we're trying to achieve is, for people intending to come, what are the likely challenges? What did you face? What would you say was your biggest challenge when you first, or when you really moved?
I mean, definitely a lot of people will talk about culture shock, but in Canada, there's something that should change, and which is what people talk about, and it's called Canadian experience. A lot of
Okay.
employers, because once you move to Canada, you definitely want to get employed, you want to get busy, you want to get set yourself up with something to do.
Yeah.
And Canada has a culture of requesting Canadian experience, and that's a very ambiguous term.
Hmm.
Canadian experience, you actually think it means, just plainly, you think it means it requires that you've worked in Canada. So it's
Okay.
really hard for someone who's just coming in, who's never worked in Canada, and you're being asked for Canadian experience. So that was a big shock to
Okay.
see that when you get interviews, the reason a lot of the time they'll just tell you, okay, you don't have Canadian experience, and you're like, I
Hmm.
just came now. How will I have Canadian
How would I
experience?
have Canadian experience?
Yeah, so that's a big thing, and there are ways to address that. The
Okay.
second
You
thing
mind
also
sharing?
is, well, I think Canadian experience. When people say we're finding someone with Canadian experience, there are two things. They're actually
Okay.
finding someone who they are comfortable with. That's the polite way of Canadians saying,
Oh, okay.
I don't think you're like us well enough. That
Okay.
that's still honestly that's a simple thing. So
Okay.
the best way to address this is socialize, network with people. Canadians are very, very laid back people. They are very passive people.
Okay.
There are people who will say sorry for everything. There are
Yeah.
people who don't like argument. I've never heard anybody, well, apart from, you don't argue in a workplace. So it's just for you to like understand what the social behaviors are, and
Mm.
during the interview when you're speaking, also, for example, if you're coming off, Nigeria people, we want to show that, oh, we know it. Yes, yes, sir. I know that question. I've done 5 of that kind of job before. This thing, they want you to just calm
Relax.
down.
Farabalẹ̀, relax.
Exactly, exactly. Just relax. So they gauge all of those things while they're talking with you, while they're interacting with you.
Yeah.
Simple things like Nigerians, they say we speak loud or we speak too fast. Learning
Yeah.
to slow down and just, your mannerism, your
Mm.
tone, just even the simple things, just to be able to, when you have an interview, to say, hey, how are you doing? Asking your interviewer, hey, how's your day been? From the Nigerian perspective, as a new person, you're afraid to even ask your interviewer to say, how's your
True.
day been?
True. I
Just
agree.
being able to have a simple icebreaker to say, hey, how's the weather in your side, or what's the weather in your place? Simple
Yeah.
little things are things that will help. So it's just basically getting to understand the the like it's here. Okay, all right. So I just turn off the laptop. I'll cook. Can you take it out there? Thanks. Penny, you also okay? Penny, I'll give you one. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. Yeah.
Mm. Sorry, I'm taking into your family time. I'm so sorry.
Well, that's totally fine. It's the kids are always would always be kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in summary, what you're saying is Canadian experience is not necessarily proving that you've worked in Canada, but being able to, probably when you attend the interview, being able to okay, they are not comfortable, or this person doesn't probably will not be assumed they might not be able to fit in into the Canadian culture of speaking,
Yeah.
of relating, and all of that. Just like in the UK, like you said, the Canadian will say sorry for everything. The UK people will also, yeah, not say sorry, because in the UK, when you say sorry, you say, what, why are you saying sorry for? It's not your fault. And all of those kind of
Yeah.
things. And you trust our Niger people will say sorry also, even when it's not your fault. Just that kind of being respectful. Yeah, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, it's more like that. It comes more around your soft skills and how you come
Yeah.
across and how they perceive you. So that really is it. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you say you were able to overcome this cultural? Because for me, I think it's more of cultural than the real experience. How were you able to overcome the Canadian experience to speak slowly? Of course, I know you before in NAM, I've always known you to be a gentleman. You're not like the typical Nigerian. Especially those of all of us that lived in Lagos, that Lagos kind of makes you to be very loud and all of that. But you, on your part, even from Nama that I've known you, you're a very relaxed young man, easygoing, and yeah, like an Englishman. Some really say you're an Englishman.
No, I'm a Niger person through and through.
I know you are, but then your mannerism and all of that portrays somebody well learned, well mannered, and not, you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I get. Go ahead, I
So
see
how
things.
were you
Yeah.
able, okay, apart from the Canadian experience, other cultural thing, how were you able to integrate into the Canadian? Because I know there are some cultural differences with what we have in Nigeria and in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, so the good thing about Canada is if you come in, there's so many programs that helps you. There's so many programs that are around that can help you find your feet, and
Okay.
they don't just talk about uh work related or career related stuff. They also talk about these soft skills. Like
Okay.
in Canada, for example, I remember when I came in, one of the programs I went to talked about the fact that you're not supposed to like most offices are scent free. So in Nigeria now, you want to wear the best perfume, smell nice, smell good. A lot of offices or office spaces are scent free because they feel like that might make some other people uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
little things like that, getting those information, just being out there. I think the more you're out there, the more you meet people. And for me also was one of the jobs I had, one of my first jobs required that I had to interact with people a whole lot. And I was always a very laid back, I'm still a laid back person. I was almost at the point of being shy. So I mean, one of my
Oh.
first job was yeah, I had to be calling people every morning to say, okay, my first IT job actually was as a technical support person. So I would have
Mm.
to call a list of maybe 10 people to schedule. And, just even seeing the names and knowing how do I pronounce Fitzgerald? How do I pronounce this name? You're not even sure what the correct pronunciation is.
Yeah.
So it was just I think it comes with time. It's same
Yeah.
thing with the UK. After time, you know how things operate. You get familiar with even basic things like pronunciation.
Yeah.
If I see a name now, I don't need to think and say, okay, is this Bruce Wayne or is this Bruce Wyan? No, so those little those little things matter. And I'd just say for anyone new to Canada, meeting people is key. In
It's
Nigeria, we talk about connection. They say, you have connection or who sent you here. In
yeah.
Canada, they call it networking. It's official. Most of
Networking.
the jobs, yeah, it's called networking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the same way in the US. They don't call it bribe. They call it what do they call
Tip.
it for like the
Tip.
government.
The tip.
No, not tip. Like
Lobbying.
when you have lobbying, they call it lobbying. Exactly. So that's the same way in Canada. You have to realize that networking is key. You
It's
could
key.
meet the person today and you have a coffee chat or talk with the person,
Mm.
and the next day you have a job. So you have to just put yourself out there, try to meet people,
Mm.
and embrace the culture. There are a lot
Yeah.
of places, resources for immigrants to go to learn all these things.
Mm.
So really just doing that will help a whole lot.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Lumi, what would you say was one moment during your journey that truly tested your resilience?
Oh boy. I mean, there have been many moments. There've been really, really many moments. For
Mm.
me was before leaving Nigeria, I told myself whatever I have to do to succeed, I will do. So I didn't
Mm.
come to Canada with too much expectations. So that helped me in a way.
Can I check?
But
Sorry, can I check
yeah,
when you mean whatever? Because I'm quite careful with when people use the word whatever. That might
okay.
also include fraud, include
No,
criminal
no, no,
act.
no,
So
no.
yeah, so let's
Yeah,
yeah
yeah. I know.
let's put the word legal, anything legal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I didn't think about it that way, but okay, just for clarity's purpose,
Yeah.
anything legal, and forthright to do. So I even said, I did all sorts of things. I was a lesson teacher. I did keep the dishes. I I taught at the library. I mean, like everything I could do possibly, So,
Yeah.
but back to your question about one point I talked about resilience was, I think there was a time I my first job actually, which was in the warehouse.
Mm.
It had like stack stuff up, and coming from Nigeria, at least before I left Nigeria, I was already slight middle level.
Middle
Was it level
manager.
10 or level 11?
Middleman,
Oh,
yeah.
I said level 11. Yeah. So, and then there was this. I was stacking up the boxes, and there was this
Himself.
guy who was one young chap just said, and everything just fell down. Like you had to like build like a 6 by 6 foot stack on the what do you call it on the cart, and it just fell down. And then one young chap who was supposed to be my trainer just spoke to me in a very disrespectful manner. Just said,
Oh,
"Clear that up, clear that." And I
oh,
just sat
bless
down and
you.
I was about to cry. I'm like, "Oh my
Oh,
god,
bless you. Bless you.
what like what did I come to do here?" I
Oh,
got home
bless
that day
you.
and I was just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing
Bless
here?
you. Bless
But
you.
yeah, so I think
Bless,
that tested my resilience in a
bless
way.
you.
But yeah,
Oh,
uh,
how did you manage that?
how did I manage that? I told myself I wouldn't continue this job. That's what I just told
Mm,
myself.
mm.
I told myself, no, okay, because people, is like I mentioned, information is key. Information
Yeah,
is key. How far
yeah,
you go depends on people you have around. So
mm,
when that happened, I just told myself, okay, I know I have to do a survival job, but this is not what
yeah,
I'm here to do. This
yeah,
is not what I'm here to do. And so
mm,
right from that point, I just started talking and saying, okay, if there were another job I could do, and
mm,
so I started finding another job. Luckily, I was able to get another job in a
mm,
manufacturing company, and so uh, yeah, I just basically fueled that
mm.
emotion into saying, okay, I need to get out of this place and do
Yeah.
something better. That's how I was able to address that.
Okay, so would you say that you had at some point you began to have good support and community support kind of?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've always had good support, and I think Nigerians in Canada, at least I can speak for Calgary, great
Mm.
people. You
Oh,
hear about Nigerians. Yeah, they are great people, willing, most of the time, willing to help you.
mm.
And but the truth is, people can only help you to the extent that they know. I mean,
Then
if
you
someone
understand.
doesn't have good information or doesn't know better, that's the best they can help you with.
Yeah,
And so just make it, and that's why I said it's really important that you go out and meet people, because you
yeah.
could just meet someone who basically changes your whole perspective.
Mm,
And so, yeah, I met other Nigerian people who I saw on LinkedIn
mm,
doing great stuff, managers, and I'm like, okay, if these guys can do these things, I can also do it. So,
mm,
yeah, the Nigerian community, yeah, I think Nigerians have a good, they have a good, what do you call it, a good rep, at least in Calgary.
mm.
In Canada, generally, I think they think Nigerians are great people,
Oh,
and yeah, so
shout out to Nigerian community in Calgary. If you see this video
yeah,
anywhere, shout out to you guys. Keep it going. This is what it should be. Yeah, we
yeah,
should watch our back. We should group together, pass necessary information. It is not for me. I don't think the sky is too wide for everybody to succeed. When you hold
exactly,
information and all of that, that could benefit the other person. To what need? To what end is that? Yeah. Shout
exactly.
out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. So, Lumi, what would you say was your most unexpected part of your immigration experience? What was the most unexpected part? Do you have anything like that? What you didn't expect in your journey to Canada? Did you expect that, oh, once I land Canada, I'll begin to send Canadian dollars home and all of that, and it will just be all like they say, we don't pluck money in the abroad. Were you expecting to
Yeah,
pluck money?
Omo, Omo. I have to say Omo. Oh, well, no. The truth is, well, like I said, when I came, I had measured expectations. So I didn't have too much expectations.
Mm,
But what Canada is expensive. It's an expensive place.
mm,
So honestly, the first year I was in Canada, I had to even
mm.
be supplementing with money from back home. That was the
Are
simple
you
truth.
serious?
Yeah, it
Are you
was
serious? Instead
because
of
I
you
was I
send,
was
instead of you sending black tax back when they were sending you, what I call it white tax.
I had to be supplementing for money from back home. So
Oh,
so
bless
that
home.
yeah. So that was it was a shock actually to come to Canada and find out. I would say my biggest shock coming to Canada was how expensive things were. You go to the store in Nigeria and you buy stuff and they'll just give you we call it nylon bag and it's free. So I remember going to the Walmart for the first time and buying stuff, and I saw, was it 5 cents or 20 cents, and I calculated, I'm like, okay, this is about $50 or 50 naira just for a simple plastic
Nylon
bag.
bag, plastic bag.
Yeah, exactly. So Canada is pretty expensive compared to most places. The tax is
Mm,
high.
mm,
The taxes are high. And not to
mm,
complain, like nowhere, the grass is greener where you wet it, where you water it.
mm.
I'm not saying this to say, okay, people shouldn't come to Canada or shouldn't move out of the country, but
Yeah.
they're expecting, not everything is it's all milk and honey everywhere. That's the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So when people are moving, they shouldn't expect so much. Like before I left, maybe today is not my day, but then I said to my family that please, I am only going to test run this thing. Just give me 5 years. I'm going to experiment with 5 years of my life. If it is not
5 years.
good, yeah.
That's a long time to test run something.
To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, it would just be all. No, I just said 5 years to test run. I didn't want any pressure. Okay, so another question I would say is how has your perspective on life changed since moving to Canada? Your perspective
Well,
about life, perspective about living in Nigeria, how has this changed since moving to Canada?
I mean, I think this will be something I think most people, at least in Canada, would say. Moving to Canada makes you more kind, more respectful, more thoughtful.
Mm,
Especially when you know you don't have to like. I wouldn't use the word struggle, but in Canada, Canadians are very kind people. Like when I came in the first time, I couldn't afford to buy anything new, so I had a little kid. And even trying to, I remember I was trying to buy a stroller on like, all these platforms where they sell stuff, use
mm,
stuff. And the lady gave me a whole bunch of other items I didn't ask for.
mm.
When
Okay.
I think when we moved on, so we got free furniture and stuff. And I'm like, it would just blew my mind. So
Mm,
I think most people, or I'll speak for myself, it makes
yeah,
you just more human,
more
more
human.
human to say,
Mm,
to be more caring, more thoughtful,
mm,
less in people's face. Nigeria, our culture normally, even within African countries, they say we are the ones who are always gingering, and we don't take nonsense and all that. I think
mm.
moving abroad or moving, I won't say abroad because Togo too is abroad, right?
So good
Uh,
to is abroad.
I don't. This is not a slight to any Togolese
Not
person, but it
apply to
just
any
makes,
Togolese, please.
yeah. So it just makes. I think for me, I'm able to be more appreciative, just be more human. See someone on the street who needs help, helping with the person, holding the door for someone when you're trying to enter.
Yeah,
Standing up when you see maybe you're on the bus or on the train, you see someone who's elderly, and just say, "Oh, someone who's pregnant, sit down." Just being more human.
more
Uh,
human.
it, yeah, it just. I think that's one thing that basically has
Mm.
changed coming down here.
And to be honest, these are some of the things we lack back home. I think because because in Nigeria it is more of a survival thing. So
Yeah,
everybody, all man to himself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Exactly.
think
You had.
we are getting to the last of the question. So what advice would you give to others or people who are intending to come to Canada, those that are still in the express entry pool? Or yeah, because I know your experience is also very relatable to people that have moved to Australia, UK, and all of that. What advice would you want to give? Even though it is personal, but then somebody might benefit from it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the advice, I'll start, I won't just say advice. I'll just say, know your why. Why are you leaving? Well, I mean,
Right.
that's a big, know your why. If you know your why and you think it's really valid, uh, moving to a new country is requires determination, focus, uh, do it as much research as you can. You don't want to get to a country, a new place, and then trying to just start, find your feet. So do as much research as you can do. If you move into the UK, think about the jobs you could do while you're there. Think about the skills that you would need.
Yeah,
If you think you might have to transition or change jobs, start learning those skills before you leave your
your
country.
country.
Yeah, and try to get as much good information as you can, and just be a good resident, a good citizen of, or a good person, respectable member of the community when you move to wherever you move. But I'd say definitely carry out some research, get the skills you need. I mean, and that comes especially because you need a job. The bills here are non-stop. Uh,
Yeah.
you have mortgage, insurance, heating,
Mm.
utility. It's non-stop. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you need to also get some information about what the cost of living is, what job you can get, uh, what will I do when I land, when I get there. So those are
Yeah.
things that basically planning and researching is pretty important.
Oh, thank you. So, second to the last question, can you describe a moment of triumph or success that made it all worth it?
Oh boy, made it all worth it. Oh boy,
Yeah.
that's a strange one. Oh. Can I say everything was all worth it? Well, I'd say for me was uh you know, especially in Canada when I came, everyone would say, okay, if you can start making so X amount of money, you're good. You know, 6, 7 years ago, they used to say if you were making at least 60K, you're fine. So for me, there was an X amount of money I was hoping to get, and I remember one job I got, and it was just that amount, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, yeah, this is finally.
I've made it. I've arrived.
I think I would use the word upgrading, but I'm like, finally, okay, that was like the mental barrier in my head to say, okay, how can I get to this point? And so,
Mm.
yeah, that was like maybe 4 years ago. Uh, and yeah, that was one point that I felt. I remember calling my sister and telling her and say, "Oh, I just got this job and it is this
Oh,
this."
bless you.
So it was so yeah, that was like a big thrill for me at that
Oh,
time.
oh. Well done. Well done for sharing. Then on a final note, how do you stay connected to your roots while embracing your new life? How do you stay connected to your home country and all of that while embracing Canada?
Yeah, well, I mean, and this might not apply for everyone, but
Yeah.
in places where you don't have like a large immigrant community, there are lots of Nigerians in Canada, like everywhere
Mm, yeah.
now. But the truth is still, almost every Nigerian who grew up in Nigeria still, in one way or the other, is still tied. Insta Blog Nigeria is there. Naira Land,
Insta blog
Naira
Niger,
Land is still there. You
Land.
know, so exactly. So things like that, just I'd say for me, I consume maybe 60% Canadian news, 40% Nigerian news. So every day I still
Oh,
check like that, and I still do every day. Check what's the
oh,
latest news, what's happening. Uh, Also, they're like in places like in Calgary, at least in Canada, there are so many WhatsApp groups or family
mm,
groups that for Nigerians where maybe during summer you get together, you
mm.
meet, and so just even simple things like watching a YouTube movie, Nigerian YouTube movie,
Shout out
or
to the movie producers.
exactly,
Those,
we have
those
Nigerian
skits,
movies on Netflix now, yeah. So
those skits, right?
exactly,
Um,
skits and all that stuff. So the culture is still thriving strong even outside Nigeria. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Before I let you go, thank you for coming to this first edition of this podcast. I'm quite honored that you honored my invite. I told you just impromptu, and you said why not? And I've always known you a private person. Up till now, on your Niger WhatsApp, you do not have a picture. That's to say how private you are. But then you've honored me, knowing fully well that this is going to be recorded and put on social media. This is huge for me. I honestly appreciate that. But then what
So,
would you say to somebody saying, oh, I dey hear say do like Canada, they know they accept people again for Canada. I be make I go UK, I be how? Is there still a way still there for Canada?
well, I mean, like
I be
things will
Canada
always
don't
change.
full.
Canada, Uh, Canada, they're all full. Canada, I mean, Canada, we still always need people. We still always need immigrants. And the thing, really, I think at the end of the day, policies would always change. Countries will say, okay, no more work visa for university students. That would always change. That's not static. But you have to just focus on what's under your control. So whether Canada is saying this or UK is saying that, look at the available avenues and explore those avenues that legal avenues to come. There's nothing that beats coming into the country legally. That's,
Yeah.
so just explore whatever legal avenues for immigration that are available.
Mm. I see on your jumper that is written something with your name, Lumitech. Is that your company or
Okay.
do you
Like,
work for yourself?
like I said at the beginning of this call, I said I didn't even know it was going to be a video. I thought it was we're just going to have like a recorded voice chat. So I
Oh,
would have had a haircut, shaved, or looked good. I just came and But yeah, that's my company. That's my company's name. Yeah, my company is Lumi Tech.
so
And like I
when
said,
you say
I
you do
do cloud
cloud
and security
consulting,
consulting.
when you say you do cloud consulting,
I
you
think you
do it
might be
for.
on mute.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can't hear you anymore for some reason. Let me say, I hope I'm not the one.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, maybe connection. When you say you do cloud consulting, is it for Lumitech?
No, Lumitech is the name of my company, and so
Okay, so
Lumitech is my company's name, and we do cloud consulting. And
okay, when you say it's your company's name, do you own it? Are you the founder, CEO?
I mean, see, bro, no, it's as
Well done,
simple as
my bro.
registering.
Well done, my brother. You don't need to go further. Thank you for coming to my first edition of this podcast. I hope I'm able to do the whole editing and all of that. When it goes live, I'll let you know, and I'll send you all wherever it is live. I'll send it to you, and I hope that anybody that will come across this video kindly support it. It is a video that intends to encourage people that if you think you want to move from Nigeria, please consider the right path and move legally. Look at paths that will allow you to work, because for me, it doesn't make sense coming on a visitor's visa and thinking that you're going to somehow sort it out. Agents will tell you, no worry, just they come. There is no worry, just they come in, they are abroad. You need to just come in
Oh
with the
my
right
god,
papers. Yeah, if it is
that's
study,
true.
ensure that if it is studying you want to come and do, ensure that the study allows you to stay afterwards and work. Or if you're, obviously, I know people want to also genuinely do masters and go back. If that is your case, by all means do. Yeah. And if you see this video, please share it in your WhatsApp groups and everywhere. Somebody might benefit from it. And I'm also going to invite more and more people from Australia, Canada, UK, US to come and share their experiences. Lumidi's experience will be definitely different from another person's experience in Canada. He's in tech. I have a friend in, I think he's in logistics, haulage. I'm going to invite him. He's in Canada. I think he's in Manitoba or Saskatchewan. I can't remember now. I'm going to invite him also. So this podcast is going to be enriched, to be honest. And with the likes of Lumidi, I know he wouldn't want me to do anything short of standard. Yeah. So thank you for coming, Lumidi, and say me hi to your daughter and family. And sorry for eating into your family time. Thank you for
No,
the
no,
honor.
anytime. Thanks. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you, boss. Thank you.
Thanks, boss.
Take,
Thanks, boss.
take, take care.
You have a good evening.
Bye.